What did your friend do that accidentally turned you on? He still does this. He takes my shopping bags and puts his hand on my back as we cross streets. I'm short and I have a limp and he's so kind and caring about it. A colleague friend took care of my wounded knee during work. We were alone in the canteen and he was very sweet and caring. Guess I'm not used to that. Edit. Spelling. Ruffled my hair. It wasn't that big a deal, but she was one of my close friends and that just... Wow. A group of us went to a firework display and during the usual louder and bigger finale fireworks she jumped, grabbed my arm tight and didn't let go. Not sure what happened inside me but yeah, that did it. At the school dance a friend who I had a crush on came over and sat on my lap, despite there being plenty of free chairs next to me, and just casually had a conversation. I remember a girl classmate friend liking the smell of my deodorant and just grabbing onto my arm and then proceed to walk beside me. The question should have been, when did you miss obvious signals that your friend is DTF, judging by all the replies. Whisper in my ear. Instant boner. We were sleeping in the same bed after a night out at our friend's flat and she told me to spoon with her because she was cold. When I was a freshman and taking a 6 a.m. class and going to practice an hour after school she let me take a nap with her lap as a pillow and played with my hair. Shit was so relaxing. Also another girl got drunk and nibbled on my ear and I was like oh shit. Gonna add grabbed my arm as we were walking. She was pulling me like aggressively but playfully. There came this weird comfort I had never felt even from my parents. Lol. Sat beside each other. She lied her head down onto my lap. I went into panic mode and promptly jumped in my seat, making her sit back up. We were sitting on her couch watching Thor Ragnarok, finished our Chinese food. She got a pint of Ben & Jerry's out of her freezer and she sat sideways half on my lap and took turns taking a bite and feeding me a bite. It was oddly intimate, but she'd made it clear she was convinced if we started to date we'd end up married, and she wasn't sure she was ready for that. 6 months later we were dating, 6 months after that we were married, coming up on our 2-year anniversary. I slept over my friend's house because it was late and I didn't feel like driving home. She walks out of the room to change into what she sleeps in, which was a sleeveless band shirt with holes in it. The armholes were stretched and showed side boob, no bra, and just underwear bottoms. I made a move and we're married now. She insists to this day that she had no intention of seducing me. It's just what she's comfortable sleeping in. Have had several female friends bite me in a playful manner. Turned me on every single time. She asked me to touch her thigh. She was very proud of them after working out. Little did she know I really like thighs. We're engaged now. I was making coffee in my AeroPress for us and pressing slowly on the top of it like you're supposed to, when she shouldered me over a little and leaned on my hand to push it down faster. It was cute as fuck and I'll never forget it. Decide to randomly put their legs on your lap to sleep while in a car. Probably wasn't accidental but I was drinking with a friend of mine one night and she was bitching about her boyfriend at the time. I had always been interested in her but I also respected it when she got into relationships, even though I really didn't like this guy she was with. She said she was gonna go to bed and that I could crash on the couch since I had been drinking. She started stretching in front of me and said that she always stretches before bed. Now I wouldn't have questioned this, but she was sticking her ass right in my face and she was getting into some pretty suggestive poses on the floor. She went to bed and the next day thanked me for letting her vent. A lot of people told me she was trying to fuck and I should have went for it but she had been drinking and had a boyfriend so there were 2 red flags for me to not even try. Didn't do shit, but we were rock climbing and the rope was too tight so he helped me untie it so he got close enough for me to catch his smell and he actually smelled so good. Instant turn on. Might seem weird, but it is what it is laughing face, and nope he wasn't sweating BC he belayed me. Have this friend of mine, one day at home while we were drinking with some other friends she started singing. At that moment I looked at her and didn't just see my friend, I saw a very attractive young woman. I sometimes still see that moment when I look at her and shake the thought away. My crush felt my hoodie because it was soft. IDK, it felt weird and turned me on. God, I am so lonely. My high school crush was sitting on a table during class and pulled me close to her and wrapped her legs around my waist to not let me leave. She was in cross country, so her legs had some decent power on them. Right after, she grabbed my arm and gently bit my forearm. Little did I know, she awakened two new things in me. In high school, a girl I hung out with changed clothes in front of me on the basis that, well, you've seen me in a bikini, so whatever, and I was like, yup. When she put her hands on the back of her neck while leaning on the table and her eyes never left yours while listening to you. Instant turn on. Choked me playfully. Shocked the hell out of me. I always went by an abbreviation of my name. He was the only person to always use my full name. Dunno why, but always made me weak. Edit, my dad didn't call me by my full name, the daddy comments are creeping me out. And my name is Eloise, but people would call me Elle. When I was a junior, I grew my hair out and had it cut to a 10 inches tail. I'm sitting in class one day and my classmate behind me starts gently running her fingers through it. I melted into my chair. Was very cavalier about getting changed in front of me. I had a friend who I hung out with during high school. We would make our homework together and always study together for the big tests. She was attractive, but I never looked at her that way. One day when we were in the library studying, I noticed that she wore a different perfume. When I asked about it, she came very close to me and made me sniff her neck. I never knew that I could get a boner so fast. After that, things went further and eventually we got married years later, lol. This was 5 years back in high school. A female friend and I were put in a group together for a science project. We met up after school at her place, because no one was home and she didn't want to drive over to my place. As I was sitting on my laptop and reading, she scratched my forearm with her nails to get my attention. Man, her look in her eyes and the scratches. I still remember that. I was once speaking to this customer and I couldn't understand her because of her thick Russian accent, so my coworker stepped in and started speaking fluent Russian and I swear it was the hottest thing ever. I definitely have a thing for accents because that shit was putting me in some type of mood. Fuck. I was in 6th form and all of our friends, male and female, were sat in one of the small rooms. There wasn't enough seats so people were all sat on each other's laps. One of the girls was sat on my lap. This in of itself wasn't very arousing. She was a very quiet girl and just a friend, so I didn't think much of it. During one of the group conversations someone started singing, so, as you do, we all joined in, singing and doing a jig. I was bouncing the quiet girl on my knee while we all sang. She leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Can you stop bouncing me on your knee? You're making me really wet." Well, I didn't stop, but I also didn't stand up for a good 30 minutes. We were both drunk at a friend's house party, and I playfully pulled her hair to get her attention. She gasped, and then gave a happy little moan. What made it hotter was the way she gripped the seat of her chair with both hands, and encouraged me to do it again, and so I ended up playing with her hair all night. I still think about her gorgeous bliss-filled face, though sadly we never took it any further. A friend of mine used to sit on my lap when we'd run out of chair hanging with other friends and she'd move her hips to find a comfy spot, but goddamn it was hard on me, hey, to find a way that my little John wouldn't poke her in the butt. Which did happen a couple times, which would be followed by her giving me this smile and shifting just a little more and saying something coy. Another time was when we were hanging out while I had a really loose tooth. She was getting annoyed at me pushing at it with my tongue, so she pushed me to my bed, straddled me, and reached her head in my mouth to tear my tooth out. From the sounds being made, my groaning, the bed shaking, my dad came up to make sure we were all right, then saw us sweaty, her on top of me, face right up to mine, and thought we were about to do it, lol. After she used that as a distraction enough to yank my tooth out, I had to go downstairs to stop up the bleeding and managed to explain to him what had happened, to which he looked mildly disappointed, and I think his headcanon to this day is that I had sex with her, or at least some light, over-the-clothes, action. At a party once, she sat next to me and we just hugged and leant on each other for about 10 minutes. She also said that she wished she had done that earlier. I'd had feelings for her for about a year before that, so it felt really good. Edit for everyone who said I should go for it. Right now that's not really viable, especially with COVID going on. We're both at university and about 4 hours away from each other. I am also someone who will very rarely start a conversation as I'm afraid that the other person just doesn't want to talk to me no matter how good friends we are.